Have you ever noticed how the most unremarkable days can suddenly become the backdrop for life's most defining moments? Let me tell you a story about me, Emily Parker, and my teenage son, Daniel, living in an ordinary American suburb where the highlight of a regular day was a good cup of coffee or birdsong at dawn. It's easy to take comfort in routine. Psychologists call this homeostasis, a state where everything feels balanced, even if it's just quietly average. But, of course, homeostasis is fragile. That morning, Daniel sat across from me, poking at his cereal, wrapped in teenage silence. You might think, aren't teenagers always moody? But a mother can sense when something is off, even if the words never come out. Now, you might be thinking, why not just ask him directly? Trust me, I tried. He just shrugged it off. It's fascinating. In families, silence can carry more weight than words. A kind of emotional inertia. I let it be, sensing he'd speak up when he was ready. But here's the twist. That afternoon, the news started buzzing about a historic storm heading our way. Suddenly, the ordinary felt precarious. People rushed to stores. Shelves emptied. Neighbors started checking on each other. Isn't it curious how a looming crisis can push us out of our private worlds and into a shared one? We tried to act casual, but the anxiety was real. Daniel caught my worry sometimes. The child becomes the comforter. It's in these moments, when roles blur, that you realize strength isn't just about muscles or bravado. It's about the willingness to show up for each other, especially when the skies darken. And then, the storm hit. Imagine the wind howling so fiercely, you wonder if the windows will shatter. The technical term for this kind of weather event is a supercell, a storm system capable of severe winds and torrential rains. The power flickered, then vanished, and suddenly our world shrank to just the circle of light cast by a single flashlight. Now, you might be thinking, isn't losing power just a nuisance? But in that moment, it forced Daniel and me to sit together, really sit and talk. Without the constant hum of electronics, we were left with only each other. Did you know psychologists refer to this as forced proximity? Sometimes it's exactly what a relationship needs to break through old barriers. Daniel opened up about school, about fears, about failing, about feeling like he wasn't enough. For the record, that feeling? It's called imposter syndrome, and yes, it strikes even at 15. I listened, realizing how little we sometimes know about the storms inside those we love. I told him, "You're stronger than you think, Daniel." Maybe you've said the same to someone you care about, or maybe you've needed to hear it yourself. The truth is, sometimes strength is just sitting in the dark and letting yourself be vulnerable. But the real test came with a deafening crash. A giant branch from our old oak tree slammed near the roof. Hearts racing, we faced the unknown, side by side, realizing that when fear arrives, connection is our greatest shield. Picture this: rain pelting your skin, wind fighting every step you take, adrenaline surging through your veins. That's what it felt like when I left the safety of our home to clear the fallen branches. Now, the brain's amygdala, our built-in alarm system, wants us to freeze in the face of danger. But sometimes, love pushes you past biology. Daniel protested, but I went anyway. Have you ever noticed how, in emergencies, you discover reserves of courage you never knew you had? It's like the body has its own emergency generator, not just of strength, but of purpose. I was soaked, shivering, but determined not to let fear win. When I finally staggered inside, Daniel looked at me differently, not with worry, but with respect. Now you might be thinking, was it really worth it? Absolutely. Because children, especially teenagers, learn by watching, not listening. That night, I showed him what resilience really looks like. Resilience, by the way, is a technical term psychologists use for our ability to bounce back from adversity. It's not about facing things alone. It's about facing them together. That was our turning point, from fear to solidarity. The storm raged on, but somehow, in that small living room, we became stronger, not in spite of the chaos, but because of it. With dawn came the evidence of destruction, broken trees, battered homes, but also something else, a community transformed. Have you ever noticed how crisis can be a catalyst? not just for fear, but for kindness? Sociologists call this collective efficacy, the way a community comes together to solve shared problems. Daniel and I joined our neighbors clearing debris, fixing fences, sharing food. Each act, no matter how small, was a reminder that strength grows when it's shared. It's easy to think heroism is about grand gestures, but often it's 1,000 tiny choices to help, to listen, to reach out. Later, when quiet returned, Daniel hugged me and whispered, "You were so brave, Mom." Was I? The truth is, I didn't feel brave. I just felt responsible for someone I loved. Maybe that's the real secret. Love is an amplifier, turning ordinary people into heroes when it matters most. Now you might be thinking, does everything really go back to normal? In some ways, yes, the routines return. But those moments of connection, those tests of character, they leave a mark. We're changed even if the world looks the same. So, next time you wake up to an ordinary day, remember, strength isn't just waiting for you in the extraordinary. Sometimes, it's quietly building, ready for its moment, in the love shared across a kitchen table, or in the hands clasped together in the dark.